Record. Yeah. So security part. So today we'll discuss about the how to create the users, roles, authorizations, and so how to restrict the transaction code access to the users. So we'll discuss. But before that, what is security? What is security here? Right? Security. Security is to protecting the SAP data and application access from unauthorized usage. Unauthorized use and access purpose, we are using the security, we are protecting her, we are protecting here. All we are offering there the different tools, we will use it to connect different transaction codes, different tool, different applications, we will use it to connect to the SAP to access the data inside of the SAP. But without the security, it's a public mode, anyone can do anything, right? So here the security will help to ensure the users can only use the functionality of the uh, functionality of the functionality of the SAP with respect to read their job. Suppose you are the basis consultant, you need to use only basis related roles. You are the security related roles, you have to use it. You are the above consultant, only above consultant roles, you have to use it here. So systems contain sensitive, very sensitive information and confidential data. System contains very sensitive information and confidential data. So, right, why? Because SAP contains very confidential business information, accounts. It's our account, or it's a banking server. It contains our banking details, passwords, account number, transaction amount, financial data. Everything will be in the secure in the system. So, if you give the unauthorized access to public, then it's a very confidential. Our data is confidential, right? Then there should be a user ID and password to access the data, right? So that's the reason. So we need to have a security, right? Suppose example, if you take the if we take the instance, an employee in a warehouse who is the responsible to create the some purchase order, shall not approve the purchase order, maybe. So suppose he is a vendor or he is a employee in the warehouse, he needed some orders he required, he created a request, he should approve, right? Then if though there is no approval procedure, there is no security procedure, then it's very dangerous, right? Without any use. So that's why there are a lot of scenarios here, right? So that is the reason we need to have a security in the system. Anyhow, we have the SAP level. While logging to the SAP, we need the user ID and passwords. Also, network level, OS level, we need the user IDs and password. In audits purpose, we need a users and passwords we have here, right? We have the checklist to log into the SAP systems and everything here. So here, what are the so how to create here the straightforward, if you come to the straightforward questions, like how to create the users then. So to create the users, so we need to use the SU01 transaction code or mass users SU10 transaction code. We have to use it to create the user. We have to use the SU01. So log into the systems, right? Log into the SAP systems here. So we can log in with the DDAC. Why we are using the super users, but we should not use the super users here, right? So we need to create the other users in the system here. Why? Because individual users we create it, so we can say we can establish the restrictions here, right? So then go to SU01 transaction code. SU01 transaction code. Let's create the username called the basis. Suppose I'm creating the username. So SU01 is the transaction code to create the users here. Just click on the create the users here. With the basis already exist, I think. So to just create the Ravi user here, right? I'm creating the my user, my individual user here. So just click on the title. What is the first name? What is the last name? So then you can just maintain the company and everything, right? You can maintain the company, you can maintain the users types here. There are the types of users are there here, right? What is the user type? Is the dialogue user, system user, or communications user? So service user, which user? Reference user, dialogue user. So dialog user means he is only responsible to log into the SAP system with user ID and password. Dialog users means, so dialog work process will handle the request in which we humans will log into the SAP systems, right? Then we will call it as the dialog user here. Then password, we need to set the initial password. Initial password we need to set here, right? So then valid from to date, everything. If you want to group, H group, and all those things, we can create it. So then straight away we can go to the SNC. It's not required. Then defaults, we can go to the default. How the, so logon language. What is the decimal notifications? Comma, dot, some people like it's a, you want to date format. How the date format should be displayed here? DDMMYY, or how is the date format should be displayed? You need 12 hours format or 12 hours, 24 hours format, what format you required. So all those things, printers, what is the time zone you are in? What is the time zone? What is the time zone you set here? EST, right? So then, so as Indian time zone, IST. So then time zone here, IST, I want IST time zone. I'm an Indian people, right? So then go to the parameters here. So the only thing is here, main thing is the, so logon data, password reset, then the roles. Here roles we have to assign. Who is this user? Who is this user here? Who is this user here? So here I think time zone is not invalid time zone. Maybe let's check what is the India time zone. India, I think. INDIA, India, UTC, something we have to type it here. No daylight saving 4.5 hours, 4 hours plus 4.5 hours plus minus Europe, Nepal, VST, India. Okay, India time zone here. So then roles. Here roles are very important here. So without the roles, we cannot do anything. So now user got created, right? User got created. User is created. You have not assigned any role here. Now let me log into the NP1 system. Let me log into the NP1 system here. Let's log into the NP1 system here. NP1 with Ravi user, then the initial password. Now you see you are able to password, initial password, it is asked. Then I have entered the password details here. That's done. User is created here. Now if I want to access the SM50, then you will get the user is not authorized. SM51 user is not authorized. ST22 user is not authorized. So any transaction code, if you access the basic transaction code, you will say user is not authorized. User is not authorized to use the transaction code, which means you only created the user, but not the role or not the authorizations, right? So for one user, the user, if you create it, the user should have the some roles here. So definitely we have to assign the role to the users here. Definitely we have to assign the role to the users here. Definitely we have to assign the role to the users here. Just this role we have to assign to the users here, right? So the role you have to assign to the user here. So then there is a authorization there are the three concepts here: user concept, the roles concept, authorization concept here. So authorization, role, authorization objects, authorization. So if you assign the authorization to, directly we can assign the authorization to the user, or we can assign to the one user multiple authorizations. We can assign to the role, that role we can assign to the user. Then as per the role, whatever the permission transaction codes he is having, he can only access the that related transactions, right? Suppose security, he can only get the access to the security related, not the basis related things. Then he can only access the security related things and all those things here, right? So this is what we need to do it here. So user role, authorizations, all those things here, right? So that's what we need to check here, right? So user, one user you created, but there should be a role also, right? So role, we should define the roles in an organization. When you create the new systems, the first of all, we need to create the roles. So in the system, what are the roles? Means security team will create of the basis roles, security roles, finance teams roles, so advisory roles. So there are some roles they will create it. Whenever the user creating, they will ask the question, the user is belongs to which team? Security team. Then they will assign the security team. Then they will start creating the roles here. The roles creation has to be done using the PFCZ transaction code. PFC is the transaction code for role creation here, right? So a role creation we have to use for the here. So if you go to the PFCZ, so not here. Why? Because Ravi user you logged in, you are not authorized person now here, right? So now let's go to the PFCG is the transaction code. PFCG is the transaction code. Sir, why there is a compiling option is coming means after the installation completed of this NP1 system, there is no SGen executed. There is no SGen executed. So that is the reason we are seeing this error, right? So now what we can do? So let me go to the PFCG transaction code, right? So here this is the transaction code. So where we can this is the transaction code. We can create the role here. This is the transaction code. We can create the role here. This is the transaction code. We can create the role here. The role name is, suppose like I'm creating the Z underscore the basis, right? So role I am creating here, right? Yes, I'm creating the one role for basis team. Normally, this work will be done by the security team. Okay, you no need to worry about this one. But previously, years back, so it will security was part of the our basis team only. But nowadays security was divided. So now security team is different here. But even though we need some level of some information we should be required. What are the transaction codes? We have to use it for creation of the users, roles, and everything. So that's what we are checking now here. So there is a Z underscore basis role I created, description also I given. Then go to the menu here. So here what we have to do, they will go to the PFCG, they will give you the roles names. So here they will assign, they will go to the here, they will assign the transactions here. They will assign the transactions here. So what is the transaction codes they required? ST22 is required for the basis team, SM50 required for the basis team, then SCC4 is required for the basis team. Then what is required? SM51 is required for the basis team. SM66 is required for the basis team. So like that, whatever the transaction codes reports are part of the basis scope, then they will create the they will mention the all the details here. All the details they will mention it here. Then click on the assign the transactions here, right? So here, which means as per this role is only for acts. This role we are creating to access only few transaction codes. Whatever the transaction codes, we can create it here. Whatever the transaction codes, we can create the all the whatever we required, we can create it here. So now workflow is not required. Just go to the authorizations here. Authorizations here. You go to the authorizations here. In the authorizations, so in the authorization, we have to assign the authorizations. Means for this transaction codes, whether he required for this transaction code, he need display access or he need any other access here. Let's generate the profile here. Just go to, this is the typical part, you guys. So a little bit confusing for this one. Go to the change authorization data. This is for the authorization. Means, so you assigned the transaction codes, but user don't need the transaction code. Only display access or execute access is required, not the full permissions, right? In that case, we need to go to the authorization objects, authorization object concept here. So this authorization object, we have to assign to the role here. So that, so if you use this transaction code as per the role, the transaction code is only for the display role, then you can only access the display, execute, write. Only those things can be done using the these roles here. So now what I'm doing, I'm going to create the, I'm going to create the role. I have assigned the some transaction codes. So just I'm going to restrict in the transaction code also. The user he cannot access anything. Only few limited things he has to access here. That is what I am trying to do now. So that's what I am changing the role now. So this concept is a little bit confusion for everybody. So authorization concept. Why? Because we have to get the authorization object. So here, to get the authorization object here, so we need to go to the, SU22, SU22 or 24. Okay. So here we can get the, so what is the transaction code is trying to access? Suppose like ST22. So how to find out the respective authorization object here? ST22. If we execute it, you will get the list of authorization object. What are the authorization objects we have to maintain? You will get the list of authorization objects here. So let's see. If you give the, just to provide the transaction, this part is typical difficult. User creation everybody can do. Only role assignment is the problem here. Roles creation. Why? Because it's not pure our part here. Role assignment is not our part here. So this may be some, will take some time actually. Okay, that's why pure security persons will handle this security part here. In that security also, not only here, this is a small security, R3 security is a small security. Like that, we have the GRC security, HR security, BPC security. Like that, there are the security teams are there. So, so here the separate topics actually. But in that small portion, R3 security, user creation, user password reset, unlock the user, lock the users, right? Role creation, assign the authorization object to the role as per the transaction code. So like this here, right? Like that we have to, so we are assigning here. So this is the authorization object with respective to the, so that is ST22 transaction code here, ST22. You got the authorization object. What is the authorization object you want to assign? You got it here. So now go to the change authorization data. Then manually you can go to the here. Then authorization object here, right? So then, so this is the, so here what you have to do here, manually basis administration. Authorization object, you got it. You have taken the authorization object here. Go to the system administration function. So what you want to assign it here? You want to assign the full authorizations or only display authorization? So only display authorizations. So what you want to assign it here? Just there is a So transaction codes here. If you want to assign the full authorizations, just select the full authorizations, click on the OK button, then it will be generate. So just ignore it. If you are confusing, just ignore it. So just generate it. Then save it here. Then go back. So generate the roles. Profile will be generated. Now it's green. Now it's green here. So now go to the user. Which user you want to assign this to? Ravi user. Then assign the Ravi, this role assign to the Ravi. Directly assign to the, from here also you can assign it, or go to the SE01, you can also assign it here. So one role, go to the SE01, I can assign it. Go to the PFCG, there also you can assign it to the here. So now it's green, right? So authorizations you have assigned, user also you have assigned here. So previously we are unable to use the any transaction code here, right? Either SM50 or SM66, any transaction code, we are unable to use it here. Now you see, you are able to access the all the transaction codes now. So why? What happened here? So why what happened means we have assigned the authorization. We have assigned the authorization for, so authorization of the few transaction codes here, right? SM50, ST20, SM51. So then SM66. So few transaction codes we have assigned here. Few transaction codes we have assigned here, right? So we have assigned the few transaction codes here. No, they only display data. Suppose if I try to access the some other transaction code SPRO, it will clearly say that you don't have the not authorized. Like that, if any unwanted person trying to use the different, some other team person trying to use the different team transaction codes, then definitely it will say like you are not authorized. Means based upon our role, we may have to act accordingly. Based upon the role, we may have to assign the respective roles to the users, right? So this is what we have to do. This is what we have to do it in the systems, right? So here the basically user creation SU01 role PFCG authorization object found. We can just SU22 or SU24. We can find out the authorization objects and everything here, right? So here user creation SU01. So if you want to create the users, SU01. If you want to lock the users, we want to unlock the users, we want to delete the user, if you want to do something, SU01 transaction code, you can use it here. We go to the SU01 transaction code, not authorized, because you are in the different user. If you suppose if you are in the basis user, administrator user, then SU01 transaction code here, then so you can just also copy the user from other user. So then lock, unlock. If you want to reset the password, you can reset the password. If you want to delete, the user is locked due to the incorrect passwords or something entered, user will be locked. If you want to unlock, you can unlock. If you want to lock, you can lock the user here, right? So that is what we can do. Suppose if you suppose they are the already in the system, they are the free to find roles are there. So if we go to the users, you want to assign the so super roles, then go to the roles already in the system. You have the super roles are available, just browse it. So means already in the system admin roles are there. So just admin, type it admin star, then you have the admin roles are there in the system. You can assign the admin roles. Admin roles you can assign it. Authorization data administrator, system administrator, basis system administrator role we can also assign to the this user. Like this we can assign it to the user to access the transaction codes here, right? So this is the user creation here, SU01. Suppose I have hundreds of user I want to create, then go to the SU01 transaction code, then you can maintain the test 1, test 2, whatever the test 3. So then all users you can maintain at a time. You have to create the hundreds of users. Maintain, just click on the create button here, right? So mass user creation, then all users will be created. All users will be created here automatically. The password also will be displayed here, right? You can see all users and they have password also generated automatically here. So username, password, username, password, username, password is generated. So see here, at a time, one attempt, 6 users I have created here, right? This is a way mass user creation. So if you want to lock the user, we can go to the SE01. Then we can just provide the, suppose you want to lock the user, test one, just click on the lock the user, then user has been locked by the system administrator, right? So that is what we can do. Now this user cannot log into the systems, right? Suppose you want to lock not one, no, I want to lock all the users, then EWZ5. EWZ5 is the transaction code. So I think this is not there in the this versions. Okay, we one by one we have to do. So as part of the user administration, what you need to know, user creation, SE01 mass user creation, SU10 PFCG role creation and authorization object assignment, then SU53 to check the authorization error. If you have any error, authorization errors, how can you tell to security team means SU53 is the transaction code to check the authorization related errors. Here they can check it out here. Authorization errors, they can check it out here. If any authorization error, it will be displayed. So at least remember the transaction codes of the security team here. SU01, SU10, PFCG, SU53 are the, and SU22 or SU24 are the, so authorization object related P codes, authorization object related transaction codes here. Okay, so these are the transaction codes we have to remember. Okay, you have to transaction codes, you have to remember all those things here. Okay, so got it. So small portion security. So just if you know the this limited knowledge, that's well enough as it's a basis consultant. So why? Because security, there is a pure security teams are there. They will take care of the security part. The small level of security, user creations, locking, unlocking, password reset, authorization objects, all those things. So those are the part of the security here. Okay, got it? Any questions? Anyone? Don't need to spend much time on this area. Just if you know something, that's fine. What is the LIC? License, that is the license. So you don't require that much of information, just user creation, that's it. Yeah, license here. So license data. So license related is the contractor license. There is some licenses, so we don't require that one. We don't require all those things. Just only few things are enough. So here, only thing is the address area, logon section, and roles. These are the important here. These are the important things here. Cat 2, Cat 3 licenses. Where it is? Contract 2, Contract 3 licenses. So that is the Cat 2, Cat 3. Here it is not there. Cat 2, Cat 2. Maybe where you have seen that one. And maybe that is a different format, license types. Yeah. How can we change the user password? Simple. Just go to the SE01. You want to reset the user password. Just go to the here. Just type change reset the password. Simple. Okay, we can reset the password. It's done. Okay, if you want to reset the password, if you want. So what you can do, you can log in with the DDIC or basis user, create your own users. Create your own users, log in with your own users, so that time you will see the real differences. Why? Because real time also, some customers will log in with the own users, some customers we will use the different users, we will use it. So use your own users for logging.